you see, the role changes so dramatically over the course of a successful show that it's starting out and your first time as an executive producer, the job is totally different. That's largely convincing people that you're not going to lose all their money if it's at a studio. You have people looking over your shoulder, and that's one stage. Then there's the stage of being the writer producer who has created the show, which I had done a number of times, but I was obviously on Law and Order. As I said earlier, it was kind of a life or death situation, so I was here 110% of the time on those first 13. Um, as the universe expands and things become more successful, there are people who maintain that kind of day-to-day contact, like Tom Fontana, like David Kelly, like Aaron Sorkin. Three people who basically write all the episodes, but I think that they're all insane because, you know, Tom Fontana gets up at 5:30 every morning and writes in longhand. You know, this is I ain't Charles Dickens. This is like a level of discipline, but he basically writes every episode of every show he produces. We have different goals in mind, and Tom has never really been interested in having multiple shows on at once because he loves the writing process. I love the creative process, and I like seeing them on the air, and I like winning probably more than Tom does. David is as competitive as anybody who's ever been in the business, and how he can write. You know, he went from one show to writing two shows completely, which proves he's crazy. Aaron is, you know, Aaron, he does the same thing. I think what I do best as a producer is I hire obsessive people. I hire a lot of people that are willing to work as hard as they do, which is, to me, in with my head, much more productive because I'd rather be going from problem to problem rather than working the same problem for days at a time all the way through to the end. That's just personality structure. Um, I also, luckily, because Law and Order has been, in a sense, more like MTM in terms of fostering and bringing people along, I'm also the beneficiary of the show having stayed on this long and having had incredibly good writers mature under that system, like Renee Balsay, like Michael Chernichen. Um, Whalen was there long before I was doing this stuff, so you have the advantage of somebody who has seen everything 7 times. Um, those people are, to me, along with Neil Baer, who, you know, Neil, you talk about obsessive people. Neil Baer graduated from Harvard Medical School while he was on ER. You know, this is a level of of work ethic that almost nobody has anymore. But you have people who I honestly think these are the four that I've mentioned are the best four showrunners in the business, bar none. I don't know anybody who's any better. Uh, you get people like that, they attract other people. Arthur Forney, who's head of Post, has been here for 14 years. You develop, again, that shorthand and that ability to communicate very quickly with people who have mutual levels of creative compatibility, if you will. But talk about obsessive people, I mean, we produced 166, 79, over about 100 hours of television last year. Arthur saw every single episode about 15 times because he's the one giving the editing notes. Uh, it's difficult to replace people like this. That, in a horrible sense, it maybe, which would not make many of the actors jump up and down, but realistically, it's harder to replace showrunners and people like Arthur Forney or Peter Jankowski, who is the president of the company, the chief operating officer, and is here every day at 8:45 and leaves at 8 o'clock at night. You know, you can't get people to do that job that competently, no matter what you're willing to pay them. There are very few people who can do it. So I think that's what I do best as a producer, is finding those people.